of the early read and a Rithmm partner here to walk you through 3 games that my pressure run model has come up with this week, showing value that is still available as we record. As you can see here in my pressure run model last week, 12, and 2. So slight loss. They're juiced out for last week, but handful of bets here, looking at a bunch of underdogs, a few favorites, though, that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So there's a handful there. As you could see, using my pressure run model, you have the AI generated prediction in the bottom right, win probability on this bet with the number tracked up top, the point spread that the model is suggesting, and then I tracked at the time I hit submit. So let's get into it. Let's start with a pair of Big Ten favorites that I'm laying. So I'm going to start with Indiana traveling to Northwestern, their practice facility, to take on the Wildcats. Indiana 5-0, one of the stories of college football this season. Northwestern, off a resurgent year last year, coming back to earth a little bit. They had a bye week last week. The offense is in dire straits. And let's go over to our research tab here, because why I like Indiana laying the points, why I think the model likes Indiana with the points, using this pressure run model, is the fact that Indiana is going to be able to establish itself on the ground. And also because it's going to force Northwestern, who is inefficient at running the ball. This team is bottom 10 in several key metrics, including 133rd in EPA per pass, 93rd in EPA per rush. And then you look over at their ability to get to the quarterback, right? Indiana, they've shown a propensity to throw the ball with Curtis Rourke. Using my filter power conferences, just to give a gist on the top teams, Northwestern, they're 15th in hits. Indiana's even higher at 9th. So if this is going to get into a pass-happy script for Northwestern, where they're going to need to throw to stay ahead, I don't see how it's going to work with an aggressive Indiana defense. Northwestern, I don't see how they're going to be able to keep up here. As I go over to rushing yards, all they want to do is run the ball because their quarterback play is non-existent. If you go over to passer rating, let's see here, find Indiana 4th, Curtis Rourke, really carving it up. Amongst power conference teams, Northwestern, dead last. So I don't see how Northwestern keeps up in this game. And a similar handicap could come when you go over to my model yet again, when I talk about Ohio State versus Iowa. You got the Buckeyes laying 19.5 at home. Model comes out right at it, 19.7, but still thinks that this has a near 60% win probability. And it's hard not to look at why. Again, this is an Ohio State defense that is going to put Iowa, a team that can't throw, into 3rd and longs. Iowa, outside the top 85 in 3rd and 4th down success rate, mainly because when they are not in short down yards where they could hand it to Caleb Johnson, who's averaging over 8 yards a pop this year, if it's going to fall on Cade McNamara, it's not going to go very well. So as you go over here, similar type of handicap here. QBR, Power Conference, Iowa. We scroll to the bottom. And what do you know? You got Iowa at 62nd in terms of passer rating. Ohio State, they could beat you in a myriad of different ways. They're probably going to feast on some short fields. You see them 13th in QBR. And also something to keep in mind on with this Iowa defense, still elite, but not as elite as it was last year, for example. Quarterback hits got them all the way towards the bottom here. A pretty pedestrian pass rush for the Hawkeyes this season. 33rd. So that's middle of the pack in terms of power conference, which is way down for Iowa standards. Meanwhile, Ohio State, 5th in that metric. They're going to absolutely feast on Cade McNamara. So I like Ohio State minus 19.5. I think that they get a really nice win ahead of that matchup against Oregon. And maybe that point spread continues to trickle out in favor of the Buckeyes as they head across the country to Autzen Stadium. So I gave you 2 favorites. Let's talk some underdogs here. We head over back to my model. What about Baylor? Team that may be circling the drain with Dave Aranda, catching 12.5 against Iowa State in Ames, a very good Iowa State team. My model projects 9.5, and I think that there's some good reason why, because this is most certainly the best offense that Iowa State has faced this season. They did beat Iowa on the road. They did shut out Houston and then play 2 other, an FCS foe and then a group of 5 foe in Arkansas State. But this is a Baylor offense that's starting to come together here with Sawyer Robinson. And if you look, Iowa State, again, let's talk about hits, right? Like, can they get to the quarterback? They haven't really done much of that so far this year. Iowa State, shockingly, 46 in quarterback hits. Matt Campbell's defense looks really strong so far, but they haven't faced a capable offense like Baylor, who has put up above average, above 70th percentile EPA per dropbacks the last 2 weeks. Granted, that was against Colorado and Baylor, but Baylor was a favorite last week, so small favorite there, and then a near coin flip against Colorado. Now you're catching a lot of points against a prodding Iowa State team. I'm just not sure that this Iowa State team is going to blow out Baylor like they were able to shut down Houston with the way Baylor's been able to move the ball this entire season. I'm not sure here. And then you look about salting the game away. If Baylor's able to keep this somewhat competitive, Iowa State rushing yards, this is a middling team, 38th in terms of Power 5 teams when it comes to rushing yards. Baylor, I think this offense might have found something heading into the second half of their season. Maybe Dave Aranda's done, but also maybe this Iowa State team isn't built to blow a team out by what's going to look like it's going to be 2 touchdowns. So there you go. You got Baylor plus 12.5. You got Ohio State minus 19.5 and Indiana minus 13.5. Couple picks there for you using my pressure run model with Rithmm.